My name is Ras Oduno Tariq, aka Baba Tariq Oduno, aka Baba Oduno. I want to thank Ras Kwasi, the family, the Lion's Voice, and it is time appropriately for the Lions to tell our story, where our noble ancestors will be honored, and we know that we have not been a negligible factor in the history of our story in the world. Thank you very much. There is no culture without agriculture. And without agriculture, I don't even want to think about it. Peace.
What do you have to tell the people about Rastafari?
Light to the world. The king of kings and the conquering line of the tribe of Judah. Elected himself, first rightful ruler. Hey yo! Eli! Hail them high, hail the black king on the 23rd of July. So tell them guy, who praise God up in the sky, it's a lie. The Almighty living on your night. From ancient time them a try. Them Romans know them just open them suit and ties. Criminals ain't got no alibi, they stole my people. Then them comes without them genocide.
Are you talking about slavery?
Them couldn't kill the lion we come conquer Judah tribe.
Who?
Go through tribulation, and I strive, see sufferation, and I still rise. That's why we tell them in America, live Rastafari in every ghetto area. We come to tell them in Toronto, straight at Italy.
If I was going to dedicate this segment, I would dedicate it to our dad, Frank Woods of Opelousas, Louisiana, and our mother, Myrtis Lee Ferdinand, from Brookhaven, Mississippi, 50 miles south of Jackson, Mississippi, in what we call the Choctaw Creek Seminole area. And I was born in the coastal city of Beaumont, Texas, the county of Jefferson, and a major river that's there is called the Neches River, which flows from near what we call Fort Worth and Dallas, 450 miles to the south through Beaumont, the Neches River, pouring into the Sabine. Within 22 miles, the Sabine pours into the Gulf of Mexico. So we are considered the Comanche nation. We're considered the nation of a number of indigenous people. Even though later on it's called New Spain, and later on it's called Mexico, which, interesting enough, the Haitians with Christophe and Dessalines and Boukman and Toussaint, and I would be really remiss and probably ran off of this platform if I didn't mention the nannies. The nannies Maroon. And so they were the ones who impacted, in that particular segment of time, the 1796 to 1804, which encouraged Venezuela, which encouraged a number of budding nations and countries in the Central and South America, including Mexico with Guerra, President Guerra, who happened to have been a person of African descent, who cut loose in terms of the enslaved Africans in that part of Mexico. And interesting enough, politically, I was born in what you call northern occupied Mexico, which includes all of Texas, all of Oklahoma, all of Arizona, all of Nevada, taking an isthmus up into what we know as Colorado, and we cannot forget from below Los Angeles all the way up to the northern part of California. That was considered that, and it is word that the very name of the state, which is named California, was named after Queen Cali.
Okay.
And there's much more, but we'll stop there.
Family, Lion Pride. This is a living archive. You know, we know the treasure that we have, but I'm so happy to be able to share this with the world. What year were you born, Baba? On the calendar. Just I want to give them context.
The context.
Because we're going to get into segregation, the Deep South, what it was like. So I want them to understand this is a different time that we're going to about to take them to.
Yes.
Right now. What year were you born?
I was born the 31st of August in 1947, and I personally was not by myself. Asada Shakur was a little bit earlier in July in 1947. And it's on and on and on and on. You have to keep up with those who are born the year, and especially those who are visionary planners, doers, pioneers, and trailblazers.
What is your first memory of childhood in the Deep South, Beaumont, Texas, in maybe you don't remember the 40s, but certainly the early 50s? What was your first childhood memory? What was it like?
My first childhood memory would go inside the home, where there were a number of women, older women that helped care for us, while our mother was out working, as many of our people were domestics.
Okay.
And we were working in the homes of Caucasians, as they had classified themselves as being white. And I thought that was interesting. And so, in addition to growing up with our mother, Murtis Lee Ferdinand, we also grew up with Mother Brown and Mother Carol. And surely my older sister, sometimes she acted like our mother when our mother was not in the house, and I had an older brother, but I was number 3 in the family. I was the bottom one, the baby. And another thing that I remember at a very early age is being in a building which there was music. There wasn't no piano. It wasn't no regular drums, but they had tambourines.
Okay.
They had tambourines, and so I grew up in what they call a portion of my life. I grew up in Evelyn Street Church of God in Christ.
Okay.
Which is Pentecostal holiness.
This is where they get the spirit.
No doubt about it. As
speaking in tongues was going on.
Hey, glossolalia all the way, speaking in tongues.
Yeah.
And as a matter of fact, we as children, we would emulate, and especially a couple of years ago, I would get up and do the holy dance that our mother did, because children, like they say, train up a child.
Yes.
In the way they should go. And when they get old, when they train up, even when and if they depart, they shall return, because they have a foundation within them. The Church of God in Christ, and I would like to also point out Apostle Charles Harrison Mason and Mother Elsie Mason, because as AKA knows, I tend never to mention men, and especially not to just to bring a woman's name in there, just to bring a man's name in there, but usually people have support systems.
Yes.
And that's what I remembered before I was 5 years of age.
So that's a very close-knit society. Obviously, this is segregation.
Yes.
What do you remember about segregation, about what the rules were for engagement with Europeans? What was that climate like as a young black boy?
It came along a little later, because what happened is that in our part of the city, 70% of the time, the business in the community, whether it was a small grocery store, whether it was a barber shop, whether it was a beautician shop, whether it was what we call a mortuary, or a funeral home, whether it was a shoe shine stand, whether it was an eatery. These eateries and things were owned by those people who were classified by those names. You've heard the names before. I prefer to use the terminology as of Genesis 10, in terms of the children of Cush,
yes,
the children of Havilah,
yes,
and so forth and so on. And that's what I remember distinctively early on. It wasn't until later when I moved from one end of town, which was called the one of the older part of Beaumont, Texas, in the north end, where our high school, by the time I got up to high school, was way over in the southeast part of Texas. But this is what I remember. I remember the abundance of business people. I heard a little bit later when I grew up that some of these women, they belong to Madam C.J. Walker.
Okay.
The woman who started a door-to-door business and had women to go into their own businesses and have their own home businesses, oftentimes before they open up a public shop. You know how we do it sometimes when we have the rent parties.
Yes, yes.
With the food, and then somebody may expand and have a little restaurant.
Yes, yes. We start a lot of our businesses from the home, even to this day.
Yes, even from this day.
So, were you a victim of any racism growing up? Would you say, or you just saw?
I guess by the time I was a victim of the attempt of racism, I was in a position with others of us to throw down.
Okay.
And so we would be coming back from the football game, which as what was, though we are taxpayers, and we are in large part citizens who go along with the custom and the traditions of the law, the percentage of money did not come our way. Let's say, for an example, this was long before I was born. There was a pool in a park. And interesting enough, in Beaumont, this park is called Liberia Park. And in Liberia Park was Liberia Pool. And the pool was a segregated pool probably all the way up until 1964. When it was making certain kind of its transitions. Now, if we weren't able to go to the pool on the other side of town, we found, the Raleigh hole to swim in. We found the sand pit to swim in. And ever so often we would slip off to the Nature's River. I don't know how our mother knew that we had been in the river, because we would go all the way across town and swim in the pool, thinking that the chlorine that was in the pool, it would shield our mother, not knowing
that you had been to the river.
That we had been to the river. And the river was closer to us on our side of town. And so, but in terms of those things, we always protected ourselves, stayed with ourselves. But the main thing about it was that do not allow yourself to be caught in certain areas of the city. Stay yourself in your area of the city. And if you crossed over in the areas of other people's in the city, make sure you had a posse with you.
Yes.
And also, not only that you had a posse with you, make sure at the line of demarcation, you stacked up some bricks.
One king of kings, one throne. Thrones are the house of the great King David. I and I the generation of them that seek him, that seek the high face, O Jah. So lift up your heads, O you Ethiopians, and be lifted up, O you who ever live indoors, and let the king of Mount Zion Yadi. Well, we are king, we're that crown. Stepping on the ring now, she won't back down. Ready for we are can fi stand our ground. Attack the black man and them get smacked down. She a queen, we're that crown. Stepping at the ring now, she won't back down. Ready for we are can fi stand our ground. Attack the black woman and them get smacked down. For combat, have to stand for the black. Stand against the beast when the beast come attack. When the beast send crack, try to tear us down. When the lion roar, everybody hear the sound in Babylon town. Wicked man grind drone, earthquake shake, all them bars will break. Well, here's a hot take. There's a brimstone lake. Somebody gotta pay for the choice they make. Yo, be careful what you say, cause some news is fake. And every crew got a stitch to watch the moves you make. Well, it's not Drake, but the song's still great. Give your truth and rights, ladies, move the way. Say yo.